you get these systems where it feels like the powers that be all want this, and it almost doesn't matter if the people want it or not, because they're all benefiting in some capacity from it.
Your city council members are the ones who approve these contracts. It is your town managers that are selling out your constitutional rights and your safety so that they can steal your money illegally.
Something this big has to be put before city council, and it wasn't.
It's a little egregious when you have law enforcement just putting these things up, and we never had a discussion as a society about it.
On this episode of Jen and Friends, new documents reveal what photo radar cameras can see when you drive by, and internal emails showing how to make a match by searching your social media.
It's wrong. It's illegal.
So the idea that they would then be zooming in on the people is actually a whole new level of how we're seeing law enforcement use these cameras.
And the tech companies saying they are willing to work with Arizona and putting controls in place like they have in other states.
Knowing that, why haven't you done those reforms here in Arizona on your own?
That is one area where we think that there is room for potential improvement. Other states, Florida and others, have made it clear exactly how to do that, and we would be open to having those kind of discussions.
And yeah, I think bringing awareness to the fact that they're using it to identify people and not just cars is actually quite an important push. Because I think some of the public awareness around it is not quite there either. And they're like, oh, if it's just capturing a license plate number, like, what does that tell you? But it's capturing so much more.
Most of the organizations out there don't understand how this system works. They still believe it's a picture of your license plate. They don't understand that they're doing background checks every single time you pass by that camera. You're having a background check done on you multiple times a day just driving in Arizona. Just driving your kid to school every day will cause you and your husband to get a background check done on you every single day.
And
twice a day.
I have no recourse. There's absolutely nothing I can do.
None whatsoever.
Officials from Paradise Valley have not responded to our repeated requests for comment or interviews. As pointed out in the Sedona City Council meeting last week, license plate readers generally do not record video and do not have facial recognition capabilities. Records show images can apparently be seen well enough for technicians to match images to drivers' social media. Internal emails show the driver of this motorcycle was wanted for criminal speed for going 90 miles per hour and it posted 40. Additional communications indicate photo radar techs reviewing the Instagram selfie of a woman who they believe works in Arizona and fraternity photos on Instagram of another potential driver dating back to 2018.
Let's talk a little bit about some of the records that I received from Paradise Valley. To start this, I need to say, it's important to me to say that I am not anti-police by any means. I support police. I support law enforcement. And this isn't just to pick on Paradise Valley, because I'm sure this is happening all over the country. It just happens to be the records that I found. So let's start with law enforcement going through people's social media in order to match their photos with the ID and photo radar.
Many people confuse photo radar with law enforcement, and it is not. This is a private foreign company performing law enforcement activities on American soil. They run the courts. They get documents signed by the law enforcement agency that allows them to have access to the law enforcement data. So law enforcement is sharing their tools with this private foreign company.
So what did you think that the conversation where they said, let's go down the rabbit hole, nice detective work, and they're looking at people's Facebook and their Instagram. What are your thoughts on that?
It's wrong. It's illegal. These companies are not properly licensed to conduct this kind of stuff and present evidence to the courts. They what they're doing is they're acting as a as law enforcement, even though they're not. And they're civilian employees who should be post certified in order to do this, because they're accessing databases and material that only a sworn peace officer should do. And they know that this stuff is not allowed, so they turn it over to a third party and let them run amok so that they can police for profit.
When license plate readers are posed to lawmakers, so I'll take, for instance, here in the city of Goodyear, the city manager specifically told lawmakers we're only interested in the license plate.
It would read the license plates of those vehicles. So red light runners.
We
would be able to capture their license plate. Now we can't tell who's driving at that point. So
you just know that someone's speeding.
During this work session, lawmakers discovered 16 flock cameras had already been installed before their vote on the technology, and their approval for funding was needed to install more.
They will look at specifically to be able to see license plates, so to be able to relay that information back to the real-time crime center and then thus to our officers. We are looking into as another strategic plan action item as far as recording and the legalities of what you can and can't record. So that's all part of this whole conversation.
Goodyear held this meeting in April of 2024. In August of 2025, the city tells me the retention period for license plate data in Goodyear is 180 days. The cameras capture the rear of the vehicle and are not designed to identify the driver. Records from Paradise Valley show an order form for an extended contract from Flock Safety for an extended data retention up to 1 year at the price of $3,300.
Another question is about privacy. So I'm going through Paradise Valley. They take a picture of me. Now they have my picture. They have my address. They have the how far I was going. Everything about me and my car, who's in my car. They have all of that. How long do they keep that information? And how can we be sure that that information is protected from outside entities?
Mr. Chairman and Representative Martinez, it's a great question because it's one of the key things and one of the key services that that Verra provides to its clients is taking in that data, maintaining it, securing it, and then sharing it with our clients. That data is only maintained as long as it's necessary to adjudicate that ticket or bring that citation to finality.
Records from Paradise Valley show Verra Mobility proposed retention of 2 years. It stores hard copy correspondence from violators in filing cabinets that are locked at the end of each business day.
That is one area where we think that there is room for potential improvement. Other states, Florida and others, have made it clear exactly how to do that, and we would be open to having those kind of discussions.
A lot of times as residents, we're told, we're just keeping your information for 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. Even if the city only has that information for a year, do these third-party vendors, do they also just end it at a year? What no, happens with the information on their end?
No, ma'am. There is no verification. There is nobody overseeing how long they keep these records. Department of Homeland Security says they have access to it all the time, no matter what.
I completely understand our police want to be safe. I want our police to be safe. I want them to fight crime. I want them to get the bad guys. I want our schools to be safe. I want our kids to be safe. But do I have to give up my privacy for that safety too? So, how do we as a society start that conversation and not look like the crazy one for even bringing it up.
Right. There's a big difference between targeted surveillance and mass surveillance, for starters. And I think a lot of people create a straw man argument when they say, well, how on earth are police going to catch bad guys if you won't allow them to have any sort of tools in their toolbox? It's not about that. It's about how willingly we sweep up every innocent person in society, allow a dossier to be created on them, allow this reservoir of knowledge of the most personal, intimate details of their life, including their movements, their social graph, their daily habits, patterns, their predilections, whether it's political, sexual, whatever it is. Are we okay with this profile just getting larger and larger and being built over decades and decades in the hope that we might catch a bad guy? Because I think that we are looking at the benefits of this surveillance in terms of it might catch that one bad guy. And we're missing the forest for the trees. We're not realizing that that dossier is making all of us more vulnerable. All it takes is one corrupt person to get into power, and they use that to target people that they don't like.
Questions came up. Can you see the person in the car? What are you using this for? Just the license plate. What does it tell you when they're actually looking and trying to get the visual of the person in the car?
Well, that's their way of lying to the lawmakers and keeping them in the dark of what actually happens with these license plate readers. They are tracking you like cattle. They can see everywhere you go. The people who have access to NLETs and the data would shock and scare you.
Every vehicle that drives by that camera, whether they're breaking the law or not, their license plate is scanned and a background check is done through NLETs on that owner of the vehicle, whether they're breaking the law or not. The flash only happens if you are over that line 1/10 of a second after the light changes.
Mr. Chairman.
Please.
They capture it, and then is it stored? The vendor isn't here to say anything, so I'm asking, is it stored? And then if it is stored, then how can we be certain that it's not given to some sort of person or open for identity theft or whatever?
Mr. Chairman, Madam Vice Chair, yeah, you're right. It is stored. It is shared with other agencies. It has been proven that all of our driving data is being shared with Department of Homeland Security. And there is no time limit. Every contract that I have received from the towns in Arizona, in their NLETs form, it says on there how long they're supposed to be saving the data. It's always left blank.
This is not just your local law enforcement. It's the federal government, it's Department of Homeland Security, it's outside agencies acting under the color of law. It's bail bondsmen and loan officers and just a crazy list of people who have access to that data.
Here's the reason why courts are reluctant to actually find these particular cameras unconstitutional. Is because in a civil matter, they make a distinction between civil and criminal. In a civil matter, the Fourth Amendment, Fifth Amendment, and Sixth Amendment do not apply. And so they say in a civil matter, you cannot challenge these particular issues.
If you look at what San Diego went through in the first month of their ALPR program, over 30,000 outside agencies accessed their data looking for people by the license plate. So to pretend that it's just the license plate is a straight up lie. It is well-known information that the Department of Homeland Security accesses this information thousands of times per month. And that's each program. Every law enforcement agency in Arizona has a flock ALPR camera system.
So one of the things that we found too in the records is that not only are they going through and trying to match ID with social media, but they're looking at like frat photos from more than 5 years ago, trying to match a smile, match a helmet, and this and that and the other. I interviewed the Electronic Frontier Foundation, and they're a leading nonprofit on privacy in these license plate readers. they thought this was kind of new information. They didn't realize it was getting down to, going through people's social media.
So the idea that they would then be zooming in on the people is actually a whole new level of how we're seeing law enforcement use these cameras. I haven't actually personally seen that before. I'm not surprised, I guess, that it's happening. And these cameras are getting more and more advanced and logging all sorts of different information into their systems themselves as it is.
And I said, do you think people need to start locking down their social media? And her response was interesting because she said, social media, it's a First Amendment right to be able to express yourself. But what do you say? I mean, does something like this mean, hey, maybe I shouldn't be posting photos of myself just next to my motorcycle?
Absolutely. Social media is the biggest revealer of truth, of secrets and personal information that I've seen. If you, personally, I'd like to see the end of social media, but that's just me and having an utter distaste for it. The truth of the matter is that you should be able to do anything you want on social media without the government using it against you as evidence in court to prosecute you for misdemeanor crimes. But it is not our law enforcement that's doing it. It is that private third-party company, and they're doing it for profit. So you can expect to see a lot more of this.
So let's talk about the sharing of information with third parties. Going through the records, we find that the DMV, the records from the DMV are accessible not only to the city, but then the city seemed to be sharing this with the third-party vendors. Can you please explain to me, how are they doing that? Because when I asked the state, I said, when I go into the DMV, is my information private? And all they did was they send me back a 2-sentence statement and it said, here's the law, this is all we do.
Documents from Paradise Valley show that Verra Mobility reports to have a strategic partnership established with NLETS to obtain real-time MVD license plate lookups for all 50 states.
So how is it that my DMV information is ending up all over the place?
Because crooks and criminals that are after your money have access to it. And that would be the politicians.
In terms of sharing, there's a variety of sort of features that Flock offers, and this is one of its big selling points that it tells people is, we have this database and it's a shared network database. You can hook in with the entire country and the federal government if you want. Certain states like California and Illinois and there might be one other, a couple have laws that prohibit sharing out of state, but most states don't. So it's quite easy. There's a national lookup database. So that is like one feature Flock has, that if your jurisdiction opts into that national lookup, my understanding is that everyone who is part of the national lookup can just search the national lookup database and their information is also in it.
The politicians are the ones that made this possible. They're your local politicians. Your city council members are the ones who approve these contracts. It is your town managers that are selling out your constitutional rights and your safety so that they can steal your money illegally.
You're in other states, correct?
Mr. Chairman, yes.
Okay, how many?
Approximately 30 other states.
30 other states, okay. And you have done reforms in these other states in regards to what your product is, correct?
Mr. Chairman, yes.
Knowing that, why haven't you done those reforms here in Arizona on your own?
Mr. Chairman and members, the realities of the politics in Arizona and the fact that they have overshadowed the safety implications of photo enforcement have made that conversation impossible. Some of those reforms are a reality of that they are locked in statute, and to open that statute has been difficult. Mr. Carroll stepped out to try to begin that conversation with a bill that he introduced this year, and it did not receive a hearing. There is definitely room to do that. There is a national standard of sorts that has emerged over the years that addresses some of the concerns about taking pictures of faces, about enforcement, about how what is appropriate for roadways, etc. And so we would welcome to be part of that conversation along with the legislature and law enforcement.
I've been looking at privacy and children in schools. Now there are all these apps from, the bus ride to school to the bathroom break. These kids are being followed everywhere. And then we had just found this story that now they want to put 60,000 flock cameras in schools. I feel like it's too late. I really do. Do you at all? I mean,
No,
it's just so far
not at all.
at this point.
No, not at all. We're fighting this all over America. Look at Texas, at what's happening there with their flock. Another city has just canceled their program because of privacy concerns. If you and I continue to stand up and fight for the individual's privacy rights, this will end. If we put the fire to the politicians' feet and demand that they stop this nonsense and stop turning us into the Gestapo, literally, they can type in your name, Jen, and they will get an alert every single time you pass by one of their cameras. That's illegal. That is a Fourth Amendment violation without a warrant signed by a judge. They can't do this, but they're doing it all over the country because no one's telling them no. And because there's such an incentive for profit on this.
There are all the documents, though. In the Paradise Valley, all their lawyers say, no, you can do this. It's totally legal. Who are we supposed to believe?
Well, I would believe John C. Keegan, the Arrowhead Justice Court head, who said this is a clear Fourth Amendment violation, and he dismissed every photo radar ticket that came across his desk because of this license plate tracking software. It is why courts across America have ruled these cameras unconstitutional. It is why Minnesota had to issue $12 million in refunds. They want to lie to you and pretend this isn't happening. They want to tell you, no, we're just taking a photo of the license plate. They didn't tell you that license plate goes back to the National Law Enforcement Database System and did a background check on you every single time you passed by it, illegally no less. They want to keep that secret. They don't tell the lawmakers, well, the reason that we like this is because every time somebody who's on a suspended driver's license drive by one of our cameras, it sends an alert to the nearest police officer with a video so that they can see who's in the car with them. And says, this person's headed east on Shea Boulevard right now. Go ahead and get them. That's valuable to these law enforcement officers. They make a lot of money. The courts get a lot of fines. The town and cities each get a lot of money every single time one of these suspended driver's licenses or anything like that passes by. They don't want to tell you that because they know that it's geofencing and it's illegal, and that the Supreme Court has ruled that geofencing is illegal.
And then when you add flock with Ring cameras, Palantir, all of that, what other information is being tied? I saw an article the other day that your utility bill, all these little things can be added to all of your data. Is that true?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I've seen even my flights that I took when I was a member of CLEAR. Every single time I was a member of CLEAR, my flights were then added to that database. Every single flight.
In the schools, when they're tracking kids and everything that they're doing, and now that you're putting the flock cameras in there, who is trying to buy that information? Because there's a new law this year that parents actually have to opt into directory information. Who's buying this?
The government. The government is the number one purchaser of all data.
But why would they want school kids' information?
Why wouldn't they want to be able to do background checks on every single parent who comes by a school every single day? Why wouldn't they want that information? The school bus cameras is the biggest scam out there. It's absolutely hilarious. I've had whistleblowers reach out to me and tell me that there's nobody checking these systems, verifying these things at all. We've had child predators and molesters who were photo radar van operators who were sitting outside of schools. But the biggest scam of all is trying to make you, the parents, the bad guys in this. We have to install these cameras because we have to protect these children and keep them safe. It's to protect the children. Do you know who is the number one danger to children around schools? School buses.
Really?
The school buses, by like 90%, are the number one cause of hitting children at school zones. It's not the parents. It's the government. The government is the greatest danger to your children in school zones with their school buses. And yet they need these cameras for you. Most of the organizations out there don't understand how this system works. They still believe it's a picture of your license plate. They don't understand that they're doing background checks every single time you pass by that camera. You're having a background check done on you multiple times a day just driving in Arizona. Just driving your kid to school every day will cause you and your husband to get a background check done on you every single day.
And
Twice a day.
I have no recourse. There's absolutely nothing I can do.
None whatsoever.
Actually, turn it off.
Last week in Sedona, Arizona, City Council directed police to turn off their flock cameras after backlash from residents who discovered 11 cameras were installed 2 months ago.
Due process was not followed. You know, everybody knows, the police knows, the city manager knows. Something this big has to be put before city council, and it wasn't. And even today it was stated and expressed that the very next day, after a council meeting, the issue was put forth and kind of done not only without the public's knowledge, but without council's knowledge. Now, the only way we maintain liberty and fairness and understand what the public truly wants is to put it before the public, or at the very least, to put it before our representatives on council. Thank you.
That shouldn't be the way that it works. You know, the government's meant to work for us, right? We vote them in and then they do the things that we want. And we, as a society, kind of decide how we want society to function. And then it's executed through our will, through voting. That's the idea, right? But instead, you have entities acting on their own behalf, instituting these things that we've never had a discussion about. And when we do have a discussion about it, it has to be a very defensive discussion now, because we're in a situation where these things are already commonplace. They happened without a discussion. They happened without us even being aware that they're being set up. And now it's a much harder battle to get that stripped back down.
And yeah, I think bringing awareness to the fact that they're using it to identify people and not just cars is actually quite an important push. Because I think some of the public awareness around it is not quite there either. And they're like, oh, if it's just capturing a license plate number, like, what does that tell you? But it's capturing so much more.
All it takes is one, a person with an agenda to get into power and then use that for their advantage, to amass more power or to hurt certain people. These dossiers are a huge vulnerability for everyday people. And currently, we seem to be okay with them being created because it will help catch one bad guy. And I think we've really missed that balance of power in society is everything. And if we allow everyday citizens to have this dossier created on us that anyone at any time can go back and sift through, it's incredibly dangerous because we don't know who's going to be in power. We don't know who's going to have access to it. We don't know what their agenda is, but we're just sitting ducks, hoping that a bad person is not going to come into power. That's a terrible bet to make.
Jen's 2 cents, link in bio.